This is video number 3 in the series about this crossbow. We've shot it in the 60-yard backyard. We've had friend of Bunjie, Jim, One-Eyed Archer here doing the same thing, playing around with this crossbow. Really do like it, and I'm going to give you the pluses and minuses in this video. When we talk about the pluses, we measure them in terms of what? Smaller, faster, lighter, denser, and cheaper. That's right, if you paid attention to Death by Bunjie, that's basically how we measure modern advances in technology. And boom, here it is. We'll start with smaller. Yes, it's smaller. This thing is real small. It's only 5 inches from axle to axle. I don't know why they include that. Every crossbow manufacturer talks about axle to axle. It's not just Excalibur. With most crossbows, I don't care about axle to axle at all. It's not the axle to axle that expands and hits the tree next to you or the edge of the blind or the person sitting in the chair next to you when you fire the crossbow. It's the outside of the cams, and that's the distance that I always say that's what we're most interested in here on Death by Bunjie. Here on the Scorpid Deathstalker, this is also a reverse limb crossbow, obviously, and reverse draw. But this crossbow is, the axle to axle, the outside of the cams is something like 22.5 inches, something like that. Contrast that with this guy that is 18.5 inches to the outside of the limbs. The axle to axle on this crossbow is even more irrelevant because the cams are inside the limbs, but nonetheless, 18.5 inches on the outside uncocked, no problem with that. So if you look at these two, right, that's the SWAT X1, which is the most compact crossbow I've ever had. And then you look at this one in comparison, and then Lindy's checking out. The Hybrid X is not all that big compared to the SWAT X1, about 4 inches wider at the outside of those cams and limbs. In fact, when you're shooting it, you do get a little peripheral vision on the sides, which as crossbows get narrower and narrower, we kind of lose that. It's harder to tell if you're canting or not. But on this crossbow, I've already put on the little level to make sure that my scope is lined up nicely. I've got the level there. I can move my eye from the level to the scope. No problem. We're good to go. When we compare it to the Micro series, 25 inches wide, you can see the difference in width there. It's considerable. I mean, you've got a lot of overlap on each end, right? So we're talking about a big difference in terms of the width of the crossbow with this new one. That's Genevieve's Bunjie Jr., just the riser and string. It's been taken apart and brought back from Manitoba, and we just haven't put it back together yet. This is Excalibur's most compact crossbow to date. Faster? Is this faster? Well, it's 435 feet per second with a 400 grain arrow. Yes, it is faster. It is an improvement for Excalibur. It puts them at the high end of the modern speed range of crossbows, doesn't it? I figure 435, 440 is kind of the high end of the modern era speeds of crossbows. Once you get into the 450s to 500 and above, those are a whole different ball game of crossbow. And it's a 400 grain arrow. Excalibur has always done the 350 grain arrow thing, which kind of, in my opinion, inflates the speed of the crossbow. It's not really as accurate because once you start putting a competent arrow weight in there, you're dipping way down below. It really slows you down. You're not getting all the feet per second that you may have paid for. With this, I don't think we really got to say that that's a problem because 400 grain arrow, we're still at 435, well over 400 feet per second with a 150 grain head, giving you 450 grains. That's smoking fast in my opinion. I'm totally happy with that, right in the mix of modern crossbows. So this is faster. Check mark. In my book, The Death by Bunjie Crossbow Method, I talk about the rule of 400 that I came up with, and I use that as a rule of thumb. I want a crossbow that shoots at least 400 feet per second with a 400 grain arrow or somewhere around there. If it can do that, then it is in the mix of modern crossbows. It's also going to give you better than 0.7 slugs of momentum, which is what you need in the modern era. With the offerings out there and all the other crossbows out there, it does not make sense in 2025 in the future to hunt with anything slower. It just doesn't make any sense when for $400, $500 you can shoot that kind of speed. So this is right in the mix. Is it lighter? I don't know. It's only heavy when you carry it. That's what my friend Scott told me once. 10.65 pounds. Hybrid X with a Burris Oracle X Scope. That's not too bad, really.
No.
when you consider the scope is just under 2 pounds. So this thing, for the most part, the balance is really sweet. And when you're sitting here like this, I can hold it steady. I feel like I can shoot this thing all day long in the woods, hold it in a tree stand, lift it up and shoot it. I got to tell you, in terms of both the size, but also the weight, compared to the OB. The old B-52 bomber. So, just for funsies, let's see what the OB weighs. Hunting setup. Burris Oracle X Scope. Got a grip cheek pad. Fancy string. Fancy rope. Whole bit. 10.49 pounds. Put the quiver on here, it's more, blah, blah, blah. Is it denser? Now, we're not talking about, that. We're talking about features. That's what denser means. Well, is it feature rich? Oh yeah, it's feature rich. It's reverse limb, for starters, which gives it improved efficiency. For my research, 350 pound draw weight. That is a little on the light side for a modern Excalibur, and even compared to the Ravens and some of the other modern crossbows, 350 is a little bit on the lower side. 14 pounds of effort to crank it. Built-in crank handle, built-in crank, trigger box going down there, retrieving the string, decockable. Another really interesting thing about this crossbow, check this out. Check it out. This crossbow, the string does not ride immediately on the rail. It can actually, see if I can get you. Look at that, it rides up off the rail. It does not touch the rail. It may, as it's going down there, wander a little bit and hit that rail, but it is not set up on the rail. It's actually floating a little bit as it comes down that rail. And you can do that because you have a snap-on knock, right? You can't do that with the flat knocks. So that's a new thing from Excalibur, to my eye, as well. All of that is denser, in my opinion. All of these things, right? So this is definitely denser. It does have more features than Excalibur has offered in the past. Is it cheaper? I don't know. It's $2,000, right? But we're in an era of trade wars, tariffs, and all that fun stuff, right? Everybody's worried about tariffs, and it's sort of stopped the manufacturing of certain products. But Canada, I think this is still a Canadian-built crossbow, even though it's an American company. Maybe that has something to do with it. But if they can put this in your hands for $2,000, they're doing pretty good, right? There's supposedly a 50% tariff or whatever it is. But it hasn't affected the price of this crossbow. Now, it's true, you can get a 435 feet per second crossbow from Killer Instinct for $500. The Logic's, right? That's a new crossbow. It's got a lot of these features. You can decock that crossbow. You won't get the built-in crank for that price. But I can tell you we'll have that crossbow here on Death by Bunjie very soon. We're going to do a video on that too. It is such a great time to be a friend of Bunjie. I keep telling you that. And it's so true. A bear hunt. I'm trying to put out bear hunting videos. At the same time, I'm reviewing new crossbows. This is why they're supposed to release this stuff in January, not in May. Release the stuff in January so I can get all the new stuff out of the way, then go on my bear hunts and my turkey hunts and share those videos instead of trying to do it all at once. Right? Right? As far as later goes, my arm's getting tired, so I'm going to stand it up like this, okay? But when we talk about this crossbow, there are a few minuses, right? The weight, again, in the mix, you got to compare apples to apples. This is certainly not the lightest crossbow out there, but compared to other modern offerings, it's not that bad.
The high-end stuff, it's no heavier.
One thing I don't care for so much is the stirrup. What I would have done on this, not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker or anything like that. But the stirrup, I like to have a stirrup. You can position this stirrup sticking out like this, or you can position it sticking up like this, where it'll give you a little bit more broadhead protection. 20-inch, this is 18-inch arrows, but they stick out to here with a field point on. They stick out with a Swhacker. It'll be clear out to here. You would need a giant stirrup to accommodate that. I'd like to see a stirrup. Why don't you just make it so I can pull it out, turn it around, and stand it up and move it? I don't know. But this is fine, I guess. This stirrup is just enough to get your toe on it, so when you crank it, it sits still, which is nice. I do like that. An aftermarket stirrup, if you're a guy who's into making aftermarket things, I certainly think making stirrups for this is something that can be done very easily that people would like. Larger stirrups, maybe that's something to look into if you're into that kind of business, right? Let me know, and I'll plug your products here on Death by Bunjie. I can like that stuff. So if you got that in mind, that's the thing. I'm not a guy that works with metal, so I can't do it myself. But this stirrup, I found that the way for me, that I like about this stirrup, I can set it on the crossbow workbench like this. It sits here and here perfectly. And if you're out in the backyard and you're shooting, you can set it this way. It'll set it on a table. It doesn't rock. You know, they always want to rock and lay on the cams and do all that stuff. This doesn't do that. It sits very level that way. It's very, this is flat and then sits on here. And it's like a perfect little setup. So there's some good to that too. Another minus with this crossbow is the nocks. You have to use this proprietary nock. There is all kinds of little goings on with this nock. There is I'm trying to describe the best I can. You've got the rhino nock groove in it, okay? I don't know how this is going to work, but you do have the rhino nock groove in it all the way around the nock, and that's what tells the crossbow, hey, it's loaded, and it triggers the anti-dry fire and locks it, and that's what you hear snapping in place. It does have a really good, well-defined groove around the nock like this to reduce string wear, serving wear, and it's set up perfectly for the diameter of serving that comes with the crossbow. So you're going to want to use this nock with those servings. That makes sense to me as well. There's a little bit of a shaved out portion here, okay, which is on the bottom actually, I think. Yeah, this would be on the bottom. A shaved out portion here, which is something in the trigger box needs that in order to get the nock all the way back where this is having contact with the string and the groove is not affected, you know, so the groove can do its thing. There's a little ball bearing that drops down into the groove. And then lastly, there's actually a little shaved out area here, a little wedge shaped area where that goes into the trigger box, the anti-dry fire system, I guess, as well. That's why you gotta have the vane down. The problem for me with that is gonna be that I can't build my own arrows. I like building arrows. Number one, that's a problem. It is what it is. Number two, you're stuck with these nocks and there's no lighted version. I spoke with Excalibur. There won't be a lighted version until next summer, middle of 2026 at the soonest. So there's your lighted nocks. For me as a crossbow hunter, the lighted nock is very important. I don't like shooting in the backyard without lighted nocks. I am a lighted nock kind of guy. In fact, I'm a Burt Coyote Luminoc kind of guy. 15% off using coupon code Bunjie on luminoc.com. But I really like those. I'm not sponsored by those guys. I just like them, so I promote their products. This is a good nock design. The aluminum nock, I really like the idea because you got a pretty powerful crossbow, so you want a powerful nock. But the other problem is these arrows, it says this vein down right on here, right? This vein down, put that vein down, and that means it goes in this way, of course. But you can't spine index them or spine tune them the way I like to do. I've got a little spine tester, and if they just put the veins on there, how do I know if these are straight arrows? They're Black Eagle Executioners, rebranded as V-Flight Pro arrows, but in their .001 straightness, but how do I know that they got the veins lined up where they need to be? If you buy a dozen of these really expensive arrows, you might have 6 of them that shoot perfect and 6 that don't. This is one of my problems moving into that higher echelon of crossbows, the faster echelon of crossbows, when you can't build your own arrows, just because I like building my own arrows, right? So I like playing around with that stuff. So that's a shortcoming for me, probably not a shortcoming for almost everybody else. So another issue with this crossbow is traveling with it. It comes with a soft case, throw it in there, you're going around your truck, all that kind of stuff is going to work just fine. But what happens when you want to fly to Manitoba and shoot a big black bear, huh? What about that? That's a problem. It's a problem because there's no hard case really to put this in. You can say it fits in there, but it really doesn't. With the Burris on there, it's too high. You'd have to take the Burris off, no big deal. You would have the clearance top to bottom, but man, is it tight. It's too tight on the ends, almost hitting. I think it would survive a trip. The limbs, you know, you could pad that a little bit, put stuff around it, of course. This is already an oversized case, just so you know, the one that the SWAT goes in. And the SWAT is a tiny little crossbow, so you're already paying for extra with this. We put Bunjie Jr. in here, used it as a gear case, had other gear in here as well. Backup limbs for Genevieve, all that fun stuff. Probably got to go to the next size case. You can buy an SKB case, I am certain, that will house this crossbow, and that's what you're going to have to look at doing. And if you can get one that this crossbow will fit in, that would be your hard case. But it's kind of an awkward shape, which is a thing with Excaliburs lots of times. We get this sort of awkward shape. It's a lot easier than the recurves because those you got to take apart. This you really can't take the riser off and put it in a box and ship it out there and put it back together when you get there, the way that Genevieve and I did with our Excalibur crossbows on our trip to Manitoba. Can't really do that. So even though it doesn't fit in the hard case, this soft case is pretty sweet. Look at this. It's pretty heavy duty. Nice label on there, big rubberized patch, but all kinds of compartments. It's got room here for your quiver, of course. Big heavy duty zippers. Excalibur really does not chintz on the zippers. I love that. You got to have good zippers. But extra pockets here. You can put your, whatever it is you got, you can put in here. If you open it up, here's the other cool thing about this case. Now, it's a little snug. This thing is snug in here. There's not a lot of extra space in this soft case. But and every time you use it, it's going to get a little easier. But I just want to show you something that's important to me. Kaboom! It fits in there with the Oracle X on it. It almost feels like these limbs are a little tight in here. Like I'd like to have it a little looser, a little bit bigger on the top end of the case. But really, it does fit in there, I think, with use over time. This is the first time I put it in here. If you're going to travel with it, just get an SKB case that's a little bit bigger than this soft case and put this case right in the SKB case. Then you've got both when you get there. You can pack stuff around it in here to keep it so it doesn't jostle around in here. If the soft case, the soft bag case is going to work for you, then you're covered. Warranty, right? Excalibur's known for their lifetime warranty and how responsive their customer service is. I can tell you, see the last video, the little issues that I had with the cams and the limbs, Excalibur's folks were very responsive and great to talk to, and they answered all my questions, and it was just fantastic. You can't ask for more from a company, and I really appreciate that. This crossbow, however, unlike their previous offerings, has a limited warranty. Now, they will warrant the whole crossbow for life, but not the limbs, not the cams, and not the strings and cables, I guess. So basically all the stuff that's not going to break, they'll warranty forever. The rest of it is 6 years only, and only for the original purchaser. And the last thing I had on my list of minuses for this crossbow was limbs and cams. I did have the issues, talked about that in the last video, but the reality is those are simply not issues. They were completely avoidable, and as far as the cams are concerned, the issues I had with the fraying, that kind of thing, completely avoidable. Just don't tinker with it. Make sure you get it lined up right and keep your timing marks in the right area, and you'll be just fine with that. That's not a problem. But just like any other crossbow, whether it's a recurve or a compound, keep an eye on your strings and cables or strings. Make sure your servings look good. Just keep an eye on that stuff. It's just common sense. It's no different with any other crossbow. As to the limbs, cosmetic thing, not a big deal. So who is this crossbow good for? Who would benefit from a crossbow like this? Who would want a crossbow like this? Who does Excalibur expect to buy this crossbow? Who is it marketed towards? I think part of it is, if you are an Excalibur fan, if you're one of those Excalibur fanboys who really likes Excalibur, I think you'll like this crossbow. I think it's a great pick for you. It really is it's got Excalibur written all over it, not just on the logo and all that good stuff, but it's got the recurved limbs. It's very approachable, very simple design. Yeah, it's simple. I said simple, even though it's got cams. Don't be afraid of cams, for crying out loud. Almost all crossbows have cams, right? Like, very few of them are just recurves. It's going to be reliable. It's just a good, solid, well-built crossbow, and you wouldn't expect anything less from Excalibur. But this crossbow is also for people like me who want modern speeds. Modern speeds. That's not too much to ask for. 400 feet per second or better with a 400 grain arrow. Excalibur posted on their Facebook page, "We know it's a shock. A compound crossbow from Excalibur. Trust us, there's a reason. The Hybrid X isn't us turning our backs on the recurve platform or the values that built this brand. Recurve crossbows are still at the core of who we are, and that's not changing." That's so true. You look at this crossbow, it really is a recurve crossbow with cams. It's not a compound crossbow. This is about expanding, giving hunters another option that's compact, high performance, and still serviceable without a bow press. Again, that's the reliability that we're talking about with Excalibur. They're still sticking true to that brand. And this is what's really interesting to me. At the end of that, they say, "We're evolving Excalibur, not abandoning it." This is just Excalibur moving into the modern era of crossbows. That's what it is. And I will support them in that. And I applaud them for that. Think about this. If Excalibur doesn't evolve, right, what are they going to sell you next year? Another Mag 340 with a different name? Really? You're going to buy that when your old Mag 340 does exactly the same thing? I've been watching the forums. I've been watching the Facebook posts, right? Just like everybody else. And pretty much everybody agrees. Nothing new from Excalibur because it's just another Mag 340 with a new name. Pretty much that's true, but Excalibur, I give them so much credit because think about what they've done here. They went out there and made something different, something new that the crossbow world had not seen before. That's what markets should do. They put out something new, and if people buy it, great, we'll make more of it. If they don't buy it, if they don't like it, we won't make more of it. This is new. I have a lot of confidence that this is going to be a hot seller for Excalibur, and I'm glad for that. I'm very happy for them. If you don't support Excalibur, you know what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen? They'll be Kotobo. Is that what you want? Right? Go try to buy a Kotobo, right? A big old giant recurve. Most of you don't even know what company that is. But you Excalibur fanboys, you know what I'm talking about, right? This keeps Excalibur out of the Kotobo camp. I really do like the Hybrid X from Excalibur so much that I bought one. You probably guessed that because it's got a Burris Oracle X on it. Meet the Hydra. How about that? Until next time, all hail Bunjie.